are ready for their first game of groups, and here you can see the fans through the lens of the Oppo Foam camera with a wide-angle feature and anti-shake technology. This is designed to make sure you don't miss a single moment from Worlds 2019. You know what? That's great because we don't want to miss a moment of the group stage and of World 2019, and definitely not of the match that is about to come. The LCS champions, they have dominated their region in the past years, and in 2019, Team Liquid has also had success on the international stage. They're up versus DAMWON in this first game for them, and I think we need to talk a bit about Team Liquid and about how good they've played, because I think it might be easy to gloss over that MSI final and because of that not give them the credit that they deserve. But this is a fantastic team coming into Worlds.
They're only getting stronger and stronger to get 4 LCS titles, and you can see in the fashion that they've done it. This was, of course, you know, Impact's incredible play at that international event. Really talking about the players of, you know, the new additions of Jensen, CoreJJ, only getting stronger with a full focus on that international. This is, for me, going to be a moment for Team Liquid to come in, Group D, really stake dominance in this one.
The reality is this is the best North American team that the region has ever produced, with a lot of veteran talent on the roster, with many players honestly playing at their peak once more. Yeah. It feels like that Team Liquid is setting themselves up for success moving into Worlds.
And I gotta say, seeing CoreJJ so reinvigorated this year, a bit of a muted 2018 alongside Gen G, but jumping onto this lineup, didn't go to North America for a paycheck. He's been playing out of his mind. And Team Liquid, as you say, it's been that consistent upward trend.
Small question, after the first game we saw out of IG and AHQ, how are we feeling about Team Liquid's chances in this group?
Good.
Pretty good. Has that changed because of that?
I mean, from my opinion, I think Rookie is looking good and back on the international stage, and I feel like we're seeing a little bit more of a slower playstyle from Invictus Gaming, but we have to wait and see what we get from Team Liquid today, because I think that many eyes will now be a lot more optimistic after seeing that first game.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out, and we will learn a lot from this first game. Team Liquid is up versus the new superstars out of the LCK, DAMWON Gaming, and I have to say, as a fan, just looking at this squad, for a while now, you're just excited that they're finally in the World's group stage. From Challenger to Worlds in 1 year, and even last year we heard rumors of how strong.
Two sides of the face for the LCK. SKT have come in, they looked updated, they looked strong in our first game, so predictions off there, but coming into DAMWON Gaming and Griffin, the two aforementioned teams you said, Sharks, who were doing things in scrims around Worlds last year, they've made that quick ascent, you know, only debuted in the LCK in spring, now they're here in Worlds. We got a great preview of everything they're about in the play-ins, very much on point as an example.
And I believe this is from Challenger to Worlds, this roster.
Yeah, 1 year.
To do it.
Yep.
Like, the amount of growth that these young players have made in such a short amount of time is impressive. And at the start of the day, we already talked about how Nuguri is going to be one of the players to watch, but he is alongside ShowMakers, two of the strongest laners that the LCK has right now.
And that's the real scare, because DAMWON recognize that, they support that. Canyon and BeryL zoom straight towards these lanes. You can see how well they've been able to perform in the first 15 minutes of the game, and that's the real scare here for Team Liquid.
And that's just the reality, is that Canyon will hover around whichever of Nuguri and ShowMakers doing better and have them try to go over the line, try to make a lane that you can't even approach as either Jensen or Impact, but it's on the bottom side where the story starts to flip.
Absolutely, as you say, exceptional solo laners from DAMWON, but we have to look at that bot lane for Team Liquid and how much that will be able to offset the rest of the map for them. Doublelift and CoreJJ, once again, coming into this tournament as the most prized bot lane coming out of North America, looking to prove their worth in this game 1.
And you look at North America and like, these guys are head and shoulders the best duo lane there. What I think they're point to prove in this group and at this tournament is that an international tournament, you can still feel their power. They really can be above the higher tier of standard 80 carries and support duos that we have at the World Championships. So that's the next thing on the docket for Team Liquid.
Yeah, it feels like a mini RNG for me, because they play towards the bot side and that they hope that mid and top lane don't fall too far behind and they can contribute on the play. And so my hope coming into this one, if we see the GP being played for impact, that he doesn't fall too far behind and they can make plays happen to the bot side of the map, like dives early on.
Yeah, the question is stylistically, is the bot lane then the difference enough offset for those solo laners possibly on DAMWON completely popping off or not? How do you feel about the stylistic matchup, Veigar?
Well, I think today, my direction will be going, I think that the biggest difference between the two, as you rightly said, is Team Liquid will be playing through the bot side of the map. And I think that one of the biggest difference makers will be the jungle. How Xmithie is able to control Canyon and his ability to snowball through the two solo laners, because I think this will be the biggest break point. Will Xmithie's experience be able to trump the large impact and I believe MVP of the regular season in Canyon?
And that's the fun thing, is that we're hypothesis testing it. We're spitballing because we don't know. We've had kind of the semi-version of this in CG versus RNG. I think DAMWON Gaming are much more top-side focused. They don't look to Nuclear to be that hard carry in the late game as he makes his return to EU after his stint on H2K a few years ago. So we're going to really get some updated information. So I think predictions here could be pretty wild because you just put your eggs in a basket and then you actually have a scientific example to point to.
Let's find out. Raz, who's winning and why?
For me, I would come out and say that DAMWON should be able to take this one because I have him in my top 6 for the tournament. While they do have a bottom side of the map that's weak, I say that only because it's Nuclear in specific. BeryL is a fantastic support, finds himself mid lane, can get the ball rolling. I have faith in that.
I'm going to have to side with Raz this time around. DAMWON is where my head is at right now. I feel that after their small stint in the play-in stage, they have been able to overcome a lot of some of the early game jitters that they had, and I have a lot more faith in their ability to play through their solo laners.
And coming back to what we were spitballing about, this top side versus bot side, I'm very confident that DAMWON will get some carry picks, they'll get a lead, but I think closing out a game when your duo lane, even in the play-ins, looked like it was really holding the team back. I actually think the Team Liquid, you run this game 10 times. I think they win it 6 out of 10. I think they are a nose ahead. And I actually think the Team Liquid will take the game today.
Earlier in the day, you predicted Fnatic to win over SKT, and it was the other way around. Are you starting to get scared by not predicting for your region?
Maybe I'm just role-playing my new colors, but Team Liquid's got this one, baby.
We'll see. Well, the fan vote is going for DAMWON, but I think this is kind of the interesting question as well, because there was a lot of voices pertaining to, is DAMWON a team that can't control their nerves in these clutch moments, as we saw in the playoffs against SKT? What do we expect here after they've already played through play-ins?
Just know that this gold lead is big enough for DAMWON Gaming. We've seen games where both their solo laners are popping off, they misplay around an objective, an 8K gold lead becomes an even game. The snowballing can be frightening, and they can close games out there, but they are young and especially inexperienced in high-pressure games. You judge them on their high-pressure games, snuck over the line out of a kind of hodgepodge king zone that were really falling apart at the end of the year, got blown away by SKT. There's not so many data points, but it is only day 1 of the group stage.
I think one of the biggest reasons why Team Liquid was able to overcome Invictus Gaming at MSI was because of Team Liquid's consistency. You may criticize them for how they approach the game in many ways, but you get the same thing and you get it reliably. And the thing about DAMWON is you cannot say the same thing. Papa Xmithie was just talking about how no gold lead is large enough, and that's because they do take risks. They are very similar in terms of what we saw from G2 last year at Worlds, with a bot lane that they don't typically play through, with a lot of reliance on the solo laners. And it depends on how confident they're feeling, how well they can control the game and snowball any kind of leads that they're able to build, because if they drop the ball, Team Liquid will be swift to catch it and then run away with the game themselves.
It sounds to me that even though DAMWON was predicted by you two, it is still one of those...
A weak
not
prediction,
exactly,
right?
Sure, exactly.
Yeah,
not a
for
100% prediction. Because when you look at Team Liquid and how they approach the game from the fundamental side of things, you'd have to think they have a good grip on what they have to do in this game. So why is it that you still give it to DAMWON, even though we're giving a lot of credit to TL as well?
Because for me, the risk takers are the ones that should be taking the risk in ShowMaker and Nuguri. And while we saw in playing stage a 2v2 coming through from the bot side of the map and them failing, that's not what we see when they take their opponent seriously for certain. So for DAMWON, going into this game, I expect ShowMaker and Nuguri to be going for those plays, but they're incredibly successful when it comes down to it.
And for me, it's all about Canyon. I think that there is a big difference in the jungle, and I think that the young blood is going to prove it today.
Say there's a canyon of a different... No, that was really bad. Anyway, this matchup is the veterans of Team Liquid versus DAMWON's young superstars. So let's see what happens when they clash on the Rift.
Berlin and viewers around the world, let's meet the final two teams competing in Group D. Representing Korea's LCK, it's DAMWON Gaming. In the top lane, Nuguri. Jungle, Canyon. Mid lane, ShowMaker. Bot lane, Nuclear. Support, BeryL. Coach Kim and substitutes Punch and Holt. They're facing off against the back-to-back North American League Championship Series champions, Team Liquid! In the top lane, Impact. Jungle, Xmithie. Mid, Jensen. Bot lane, Doublelift. Coach Kane and substitutes. Correction, support CoreJJ! And now, the Coach Kane and substitutes Insanity and Matt! Apologies, thank yous, and good luck! Have fun, we'll see you on the Rift!
Thank you very much, Trevor. Welcome to the caster desk. I'm excited to be here for day one of the group stage. I am Freak. We've got Spawn and Azale next to me. This is exciting. We've got a second game for Korea and second game for North America here at the World Group Stage.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this group is one of the most exciting because it is going to be so competitive. We've seen IG play. Now we're getting our first look at TL and DAMWON, and I think these three teams really could finish in kind of any order in the standings, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to shake out.
And I love the stylistic clashes we get when we bring groups like this together. We've already mentioned it, but the power of TL's bottom lane, I think after seeing that IG game, they should definitely be the best bottom lane in this group. You know, we already saw Jackie Love falling down in a 2v1 kill there. So I think that North American fans should be a little bit more positive than maybe I'm seeing around right now, because DAMWON, whilst they did make it through play-ins, they did drop that game versus Loki. It was against a lane swap, but their bottom lane has also struggled. And whilst you have these superstar solo laners, you know, I think they're currently ranked 2 and 3 on the EUS server, they are still young, and if there's anything that TL has shown us in the past on the international stage, their solo laners will stand up to that pressure.
Yeah, they certainly will. You know, going into MSI, so much of the story was, well, Impact, he's not going to be able to hold his own against the likes of the Shy and Wonder and some of these incredible world-class top laners that he was going to have to deal with. But Impact, even in Team Liquid's losses, was not an issue whatsoever and really was a standout for the team. And if he's able to turn in that sort of a performance in this world, then yeah, you can start to really see differences in the bottom lane shine through here, perhaps against DAMWON.
And it's not like you have to go back 3 months to look for those positives either. In their final versus Cloud9, a lot of the counter picks were held for FLICKR. We saw 3 different looks thrown at Impact's top lane Aatrox, and he was able to still put up pretty good performances there as well. So I'm really excited to see how TL now emerge onto the international stage.
And I'm really excited to see what does come through in the bottom lane. And one of the things we looked at, especially through play-ins, was a bunch of mages down in the bottom lane. Heimerdinger was 3-0. We saw some Syndras down there. I know Doublelift had been a mostly marksman marksman player, but has been putting a lot of time on playing mages as well, champions like Veigar, and I want to see if that's the look Team Liquid use, because again, we still think their bot lane should be leading, but in what way will they do so?
Yeah, that is a big question, you know, and on the other side of the table, when you're considering this meta shakeup, I think that DAMWON is going to be a team that actually works better with this kind of more volatile meta. You know, when you look at guys like ShowMaker, like Nuguri, they're going to be able to play a lot more of these flex picks. Flex picks has never been a strength of TL. They play their style and they hope that that works, whereas, you know, we could certainly see things along the lines of the Renekton, the Lucian, the Tristana getting flexed around, and that is going to give draft advantages to DAMWON, who's already sitting on blue side that kind of has that advantage.
And that's kind of the trap that Liquid fell into at MSI before they were able to pull themselves out of what was a very rocky group stage. This was a team that was sitting below 500, you know, was actually splitting games with Flash Wolves from the LMS. However, then when they did go back to their own style, really get that self-belief and, you know, just rally behind what had been so successful domestically, they were able to win out on the best of 5. So I think that they should have learned from that lesson. I don't hope to see it repeated here in the group stages.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see, you know, what kind of conclusion they have come to from scrims, because even if a player is comfortable as an individual on one of these mage picks, you know, Doublelift had been playing things like Veigar on his stream, it still changes the way that your team has to play around you. And Team Liquid is such a team that is built around team fighting, 5v5, protect Doublelift. That is how they win their championships. That is how they had success at MSI. And I do think going to a mage bot would be a pretty big step away from that recipe for success.
And you can see Team Liquid actually throwing in the Heimerdinger ban themselves. Now keep in mind, one of Team Liquid's core comps has been playing Sona Tahm Kench or Sona Tarek. That sort of avenue is still there. Insta-lock Gragas, though, AP jungler grab for DAMWON.
I like the Gragas pick here because Yasuo is such a powerful takeaway now. You know, it's not something that Team Liquid is really comfortable playing. Jensen can play Yasuo. I don't think that they would feel confident to take it without the Gragas themselves. So DAMWON very likely could be looking towards, you know, that Gragas Yasuo combo, incredibly powerful and such easy setup when you hit level 6.
And whilst we expect ShowMaker to take the Yasuo in that matchup, we did see it once in play-ins go down to the bottom lane for BeryL and Nuclear. So they certainly have the flexibility in their comp. It's also one of the few compositions that if you get it together and get it rolling in a team fight sense, I think could hide a lot of the weaknesses of what maybe Nuclear and BeryL are feeling in this head-to-head matchup.
Well, Kai'Sa locked in here. Of course, going to be a very standard bottom lane for Doublelift so far. We'll see what CoreJJ plays alongside him. And I still want to think about what does come through. But the Yasuo, Galio coming in here as well. I've seen him be a very successful mid laner as well as support. So that's going to be exciting. We've already got the solos locked in for DAMWON with the Yasuo and the Vladimir in.
Yeah, this is a really confident move. We have to remember it could be flexed to bottom lane, you know, for that Yasuo. Very likely this is going to be Nuguri's Vladimir. This is one of his key picks. He likes to play incredibly greedy on it, going for things like call, like coin. He almost always takes Klepto in lieu of things, you know, like that phase rush. And he's such an incredibly strong laning player that he can create these monumental advantages. But you can see TL building for 5v5. This is very, you know, opposed strategies here. When you have the Kai'Sa, you know, alongside the Galio J4, you're looking for 5v5. You're looking to set up around this Kai'Sa.
All right, well, time to see if DAMWON can remove the supports and arguably top laners that Team Liquid need to fill in this composition, as DAMWON themselves don't have a bottom lane just yet unless that flex comes through. Lee Sin ban comes in case Gragas' support, whereas that's flexible there as well, so a lot pulling at Team Liquid's pick and ban.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Liquid need to be really careful here because whilst we're mentioning they're building for their 5v5, you do not want to underestimate what a free farm Vladimir in the top lane. That's why I'm so surprised that they went for something like the Jarvan, obviously respecting the depth of Impact's champion pool right now, but I think that this is a little bit of a worry. If you don't get a good counter pick there in the top lane, Nuguri has shown so successfully how willing he is to just, you know, let this lane play out for farm.
Yeah, and Galio is certainly not a pick that has been popular, you know, in quite some time. You know, I would kind of be expecting this to be support here for CoreJJ, but it is possible that it could be going mid lane, you know, for Jensen, or even theoretically up to that top lane, so we have to keep that in mind. But, you know, CoreJJ certainly was playing the Galio actually pretty heavily back at MSI, and this was one of their go-to picks and strategies alongside the Kai'Sa.
The changes to Galio, however, do lend him for a solo lane. You know, the reduction of that mana cost means that you just have such good push in the priority, and I would like to see it go mid because so far they have a really good dive bottom comp. You know, if you're able to guarantee that priority in the mid lane, get that shove, you can really play towards Doublelift, try and split that map versus Nuguri. That's what Loki did very successfully in their victory.
And a key mechanic that got removed from the Galio was the W flash. You can't channel that and still flash, so the big sort of support pickup from that is gone. Aatrox locked in, of course, likely to be in the top lane. Can be tough against Vlad. Of course, your chain will still work, but we've seen Aatrox mid as well.
And this was one of my worries coming in for Team Liquid. Was Impact going to fall back on a crutch top laner like Aatrox that has been gutted in terms of early game wave clear? It is so much harder to shove out that lane and keep yourself
Veigar.
safe.
That's the bottom lane right there, I think.
All right, Alistar into the bottom lane as support. Of course, Gragas will still be the jungle. It makes that Lee Sin ban not as important, but you've got the ability to flex around the Yasuo, the Vladimir, and even the Veigar technically, and we'll see what the lane ends up being.
I am expecting Veigar bot. This is something I have been seeing a fair bit in solo queue. Veigar, especially paired alongside something like the Alistar, sets up so incredibly well for the cage. You can go in with that engage, and it is going to be Galio support here, as I thought. And you know, this is something that they're going to have to be very careful about on that bottom side, because if you chain the combo from Alistar into a cage, that sets up so incredibly easy for someone like Gragas to come down. The only real way to escape that is having your flash up, so Team Liquid is going to have to play very cautiously on that bottom lane, or risk getting 100-0 between the Ignite and the ultimate.
And that makes the distortion from the LeBlanc going to be an incredibly risky late game flanking tool as well, because if you do get caught out, I think there are actually a ton of tools right now for DAMWON to win a 5v5.
Yeah,
and in a game where we expected them to go heavily towards a 1-3-1, not necessarily with such a good collapse, I think that so far the draft is heavily favoring the LCK lineup.
It's definitely an exciting draft right here, as you're right, the Veigar is in the bottom lane, well past the time you can swap right there. No marksman here for DAMWON Gaming, bringing out the Veigar themselves, and really hoping that the Gragas Yasuo can do a lot. ShowMaker, I want to highlight him, arguably the best mid laner in the LCK. This is a player, if you haven't been watching, it's time to watch him now. He's going to be a huge force for this squad. Their initial draft was for him. Gragas has 2 knockups on the kit. Alistar's got 2 knockups on the kit. They will set up ShowMaker's Yasuo. He's my player to watch right here, but Team Liquid's side, first thing they ever drafted was Doublelift's Kai'Sa.
Yeah, definitely.
Into the first game of Worlds for the North American champions, Team Liquid. DAMWON Gaming crushed their way through the play-in stage. They are South Korea's 3rd seed here, representing LCK, hoping to pick up what SKT did earlier, picking up a win.
Something I got to highlight right off the bat, it's the call start here for Nuguri. You are going to see it's Klepto, this is Call. This is very much his playstyle, something that he's really well known for. And it's so dangerous when you're playing against someone like this, who is going to be so talented individually and on the Vladimir that scales incredibly well.
And if you didn't check it out, Frost did a really great breakdown of Nuguri's Vladimir, and specifically the build he goes towards. This is a guy that has been playing Vladimir the whole year and has revolutionized multiple builds. He started with the Dorian's Ring start, then he went towards the double CDR items. This time you're probably going to see him also go for an early Nomad's Medallion. It's all about being able to build up that cheap and efficient CDR and then gold generation items to be able to crush a mid game.
And it becomes a really difficult proposition for your opponent, right? If you are Xmithie, do you dedicate your early game time to trying to keep down this Vladimir that is somewhat of a ticking time bomb? You may hold him down for a bit. When that Klepto gold is coming in, the call cashes out, you really are going to be ramped up into that mid game pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, as I mentioned, the way they hit Aatrox was a lot of that wave clear, a lot of that shove. So even if you do get into the lane, he's not really going to be able to push out and help other parts of the map. That was an area of Impact's game I felt like got much better for Team Liquid. He was constantly roaming out of that top lane. So I think that this might not necessarily lend to that playstyle, and I would like to see them go all in on the bottom lane.
One thing I want to point out as you talk about bottom lane is the fact that Xmithie was spotted, well, inferred in his jungle route, because you saw Impact come to lane a little bit late with damage on him. He leashed the red buff, and they can kind of surmise where that Jarvan started. Candy, meanwhile, to my knowledge, no deep wards in his jungle, just soloed his Raptors. Could have technically started anywhere, although you do expect a weak camp for the Gragas. So he's in a little bit more fog of war going through this camp.
Yeah, and Xmithie was actually spotted on a ward there, but ShowMaker's not getting out.
Knockup is there. Ignite there, pretty good damage. A little bit of trade on the way back. No chains for Jensen, but Q&W lands, and ShowMaker early recall without TP to get back to lane.
I mean, that was honestly really sloppy. Xmithie walked over a ward. There's no reason that ShowMaker shouldn't have been able to actually, play to the other side of the map. You even called it out, Freak. They knew that Xmithie was very likely starting on that top side, given that Impact showed up late to lane. So, perhaps a little bit of jitters there in the early game from ShowMaker.
Yeah, absolutely could be. And, when he starts something like the Doran's Blade, that means he wants to play up in the lane and trade very aggressively, not having the teleport to get back as well. That's going to cost him experience. And when you're playing against a LeBlanc, experience becomes very crucial because her all-in at that level 6 mark, especially if she hits it first, can become very oppressive in the lane. So I would expect Canyon to now visit this lane and try and even out that gap.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got to also take a look at the buys, right? It's just a refillable. When you're looking over on the other side, getting that Dark Seal on the first buy is going to be very preferential here for Jensen. So, in these coming minutes, he is certainly going to be sitting pretty, but have to be respecting that all in.
Now the fight down to the bottom side. The stun is going to be there, and you can see CoreJJ not able to do much on the way out, but still damage on a BeryL puts him at half HP, and the trade favors Team Liquid.
Always been something that Galio has in his kit, just the upfront burst damage if you are able to land abilities. And that is going to require very good brush control. So I'm interested to see how they maintain this push and whether they can continue to replicate that in the lane, because I feel like it's going to be necessary.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It is incredibly important. And, while you can kind of play more aggressively, I feel in these early levels against the Veigar, as you start stacking up that passive, as you start getting these buys, and especially when you hit level 6, the burst potential alongside Alistar combo with Ignite really does threaten the 100-0 type of play. So TL is going to try to have to create advantages in these early levels and try to get something done before DAMWON can get there.
Yeah, and I think that when we have a look at how TL should look to open up this map, it is through a lot of what is already going well for them. Mid lane push is going to be there. Bottom lane push. That opens up the blue side bottom jungle. That's where majority of Canyon's experience in gold is going to sit. And if you open that up for Xmithie, it's only going to mean good things. So I think this is, one of those, hasn't been an explosive early game, but is certainly playing out to the script.
Yeah, and if you take a look, you can very easily see where DAMWON is playing to. Look here on the minimap, 4 deep wards in that TL, topside jungle. This is why we are seeing Impact sit back under turret, willing to give up farm. He knows he is playing weak side of the map, and if you step up, if you're trying to trade with this Vladimir, despite the fact that Vladimir is weak in the early levels, Canyon can very easily be behind him. So this is intelligent play from Impact, and despite the fact that he's down farm, he has to play it out this way.
And the first time that Xmithie shows on his side of the map, he actually is able to shove Nuguri back. So I like Impact's timing. Once again, this is a former world champion. I feel like a lot of people sleep on Impact despite so many promising performances recently.
Definitely an incredible player. Has been one of the best top laners in North America for a while. It's been a while since people have called him the #1. To be fair to your point, I think that's clear, but he's definitely been a good player on the world stage when it matters most, and you can see that trade gets him pretty close in farm. 5 CS difference, not too bad.
And maybe a repeat gank mid, so I hold the thought. No, actually, what I was going to say is North American top laners on the world stage have actually just been getting better in general. You think back to the performances LickRish was also able to have. It was a role that was often heavily criticized going into international tournaments, but I feel like it has started to be remedied in the last few years.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Mostly on the backs of, I think, Impact as well as LickRish. These guys have been really big standouts for the team, and certainly excited to see how they will be able to perform against some of this top competition here. But, thus far, pretty slow early game. It is going to be the Infernal first Dragon, so interested to see if either one of these teams are going to be looking to kind of make a move towards that. But thus far, it feels like DAMWON is just tracking Xmithie everywhere he goes. They have had such good vision. They've had so many pink wards down across the map. You can still see there is one back up in his jungle over here. There's another pink ward down on the bottom side. He spotted out starting out this Dragon. So Xmithie has really kind of been stifled by really good wards from DAMWON.
Predator pop, CoreJJ from the brush, looks for a taunt, not going to find it there, is going to walk back out, but now they're going to re-engage towards the Drake as Predator times out, but the rest of the squad, when can they come down? You've got LeBlanc in first, Yasuo forced to farm under his turret, so without ShowMaker showing up, it is Infernal Drake going to Team Liquid. Very early on, sub 7 minutes. Mid lane priority, Jensen makes it happen.
And a really nice timing on the Infernal Dragon as well. That means, one more wave pushed out for Liquid can be into a recall and top lane flip as well. We call it the staggered objectives, and Liquid very much in control of the pace of this early game.
Yeah, they certainly are, and a lot of it is just off of that early game gank from Xmithie, the preferential buy from Jensen, but he's got to be careful now because Canyon is wrapping around, and ShowMaker is 6.
Got a new knockup. He's got a jungler nearby as well. They're not going to go for the flash play, but they're going to shepherd him towards his turret. Able to walk away, grab most of that farm. Should get it with the auto in the queue, and so far, okay. Now we're getting a fight in the top side. This time, no pool left for Nuguri. He's going to chase down to this one. Pretty good damage available as the heal comes through from the ultimate, and Impact cannot get a lot more damage done, but still fighting back valiantly. Every time he sees the opposing jungler, goes for the battle.
Yeah, it is that trade of ultimates. You can see Nuguri actually going away from his CDR build, though. He is likely going straight towards full AP here, looking more for kind of that one-round style of Vladimir when you do go for Spellbinder's Orb and these types of items. You're looking more for that kind of first-round impact of spells.
And it is always so tempting. You're playing Vladimir, you know you've got great ratios, you're back with the 1250 gold, and you're like, you know what, Kindle Gem and Boots could be a great purchase here. However, how can you resist something like a needlessly large rod, especially if you are someone like Nuguri? So I agree with you. However, you can see that that is hurting. Impact has started to win a lot of these trades right now, and it is in a situation where Nuguri could be punished for the greedy item build.
Well, again, knocked up, takes some damage. Once again, Pools gets away, so Impact wins an HP right there. Xmithie was just spotted by that deep control ward that Azale pointed out a little while ago, and so once again, the TL jungler is tracked.
And despite all the things I've been saying about the nerf version of Aatrox, his teamfighting is still monstrous. I mean, this is a guy that if he's able to enter mid-game teamfights with the cleaver, with the Death Dance, he is very hard to peel, and this is a very short-range comp coming through from DAMWON, which Aatrox is going to have a field day in.
He certainly can, but he's also got to be pretty careful about the crowd control that can come through because there's a tremendous amount of burst on the side of DAMWON. And most of your tankiness is from that lifesteal. You've got to be able to get the damage out. And if you just get ignited and Veigar all comes through and you're just getting knocked down almost immediately, that becomes very difficult. But DAMWON thus far have been pretty content to just sit back, farm, scale up their champions, and use their vision very defensively.
And this is very fair to the style of game that DAMWON do like to play. It is, hold the thought, Xmithie looking bottom lane.
Gonna try for it, but a really nicely placed cage buys his base. There's the knockup, a lot of damage coming across. First blood gonna come through, Nuclear falls, and the kill goes to Xmithie.
And Xmithie with the EQ flash there, that was perfect from him. A player not known for his mechanics, but that was beautifully done there.
And continued pressure elsewhere on the map as well. You can see Jensen still looking for aggressive trade. Impact still has this push, and you can see that there is no easy answer right now for Canyon to be able to get his team back into this game. That kill also perfectly timed. If this bottom lane does get pushed out, they have just forced Nuclear to teleport back towards lane. Rift Herald could be open right now for TL. However, I do want to take a second to talk about, how DAMWON do like to play the game. This isn't necessarily a team that will explode early game leads. It is more between the 15 and 25 minute mark, whilst the mid game and the 1-3-1 is set up. So certainly not unfamiliar territory just yet.
Yeah, definitely not. And I do think, even when you are getting to those later stages in the team fights, Doublelift is going to have to play so incredibly safe to not just get one comboed by the likes of this Yasuo Gragas. If you're getting hit by that ultimate, anything from Veigar following that up, and you could easily be getting burst 100 to 0.
Oh, an Impact makes the bluff happen. Nuguri knows if Impact flashes, he's dead. There's the old combo to the mid lane. Oh, Jensen is deleted.
And finally, Jensen is punished for sticking his nose in ShowMaker's business. Repetitive, aggressive trades coming across, and Canyon finally catches him out.
Yeah, that was really well executed. Finally able to pull off that Gragas Yasuo combo, and that is the danger that this type of composition really does provide, and gonna have to be cognizant of that really through all stages of the game. So here it is one more time, just ultimate over the wall there. Jensen not able to react in time, would have had to flash the cast to avoid that death, because once you get caught in the Yasuo ultimate, easy body slam flash from Canyon to clean that up.
And a necessary burning of double summoner spells there as well. You need to guarantee that that is a one combo, because otherwise Xmithie can be there for the cleanup. Jensen is going to be very elusive. And I do think that TL might have missed a little bit of a trick here. Sure, it is another Infernal Dragon coming up, but I don't think you want to just straight up lane and keep the map as stable as they are right now going into a Vladimir Yasuo composition. I would like to see them try and upset this, make the map state a little bit more fluid. However, Impact is having a very good time.
No flash, but he's able to get away from the pullback, and Nuguri's able to go back to safety. 3 CS till Cole is done. He'd love to recall once that's complete. And he's going to be healthy enough that he can probably get most of this farm out of the turret. The Drake has spawned this time around. Jensen tries to push back BeryL.
And while I do certainly agree with you, Spawn, I think the tough part for TL is that DAMWON has just had such good vision, right? You know, Xmithie certainly has been trying. I don't think he's been overly passive and just trying to power farm. He's been looking for a lot of ganks, but everything is warded out, and DAMWON has just done a remarkable job of that. And honestly, again, I have to kind of point to this ward. This has just been sitting there for the last 10 or so minutes. I mean, a little bit of an exaggeration, but a long time.
Yep.
And has constantly been spotting out Xmithie and making their moves very difficult to pull off.
Now Doublelift flash, his ult comes in, pulls in 2. Here comes Galio over the top as well. A single knockup. Here's the pull right back in, but BeryL's tanky. The re-engage explosive cast buys some time, but Doublelift finds that first kill. BeryL still low. The flash knockup impact doing the shy impressions now is ShowMaker. Knocked up as well, trying to run away. The flash to follow, the taunt under the turret. They've got a lot of damage now, and the Leprechaun trying to stay alive. A turret trades one. A flash keeps Nuclear alive. ShowMaker blocks it. That was beautiful as the fight was so close.
What a back and forward affair there between TL and DAMWON, but it should still be priority over this Dragon for the North American lineup. That fight should have nearly been a wipe.
Yeah.
Finally, TL dragged DAMWON out of those lanes.
Yeah, ShowMaker and Nuclear really playing that well in the final moments to prevent it from just being a clean wipe there pretty much. But TL do still have the HP advantage, and that is double Infernal now to them. They are looking for this proactive play. Mind you, Doublelift had already been pushed out, so it was a bit of a difficult entrance. Xmithie starts it off alongside CoreJJ. Doublelift has to use the ultimate to re-enter, which meant he couldn't actually chase down to finish off some of these later kills.
And the re-engage here was prevented by the Veigar cage. Remember, you can no longer dash through this, so it costs seconds that were necessary for the cleanup kills. This is what we were mentioning about ShowMaker as well. Watch as he comes back in front of his AD carry player there and will be able to prevent another kill going over.
Another crucial point of that fight was Nuguri could not join in. His recall was a lot later than Impact. He was pushed under his turret. Once the TP came through, the squad had already pushed behind him, so we got nothing done there.
Yeah, certainly the case. 2 kills, also going over to Doublelift, a big deal there for TL. You know, pushing him forward in this game. You can see he's already considering some defensive items, picked up the Null, knowing the potential of this Gragas, the Veigar, as well as the Vladimir, to just kind of cleanly knocking him out. So may have to sidestep and for something like the lines of a Hex Drinker before he can go into the rest of his damage.
Yeah, it certainly could be the case, and I do want to point out that DAMWON are still trying to force the pace.
Ooh, Jensen able to juke away from that one, not tagged by BeryL's knockup combo. 3k health on this Herald right now as we wait to see this gets pushed down again. A chain towards BeryL, decent damage there. The eye is open. Smite comes through for Canyon, nicely done. I don't know if TL can shepherd this though. They're gonna let BeryL take this one? No, not just yet. Impact coming through as well. This could be another team fight right now. The knockup are in though. Look at the damage output. Zonia's buys a few seconds. ShowMaker a bit low, still running around. Xmithie almost dead, but the knockup makes ShowMaker go down 1-for-0. Impact will be traded off as Hemo Plague does a lot of damage. Now the 4v4, the Smite comes in. Body slam, auto attack. That's gonna do it. Canyon picks up the second kill of the fight. This one goes DAMWON's way.
Yeah, this is certainly in DAMWON's favor. They're grabbing the steal. Canyon with a great smite to take away that Rift Herald is the big difference in this fight. And when Impact looked to enter, he was completely shut down by that Veigar cage. His first QE actually got him stunned, and now DAMWON can look for this mid lane turret. It should be theirs.
Seems likely. It's not going to be any more plates, of course. We're past 14 minutes, but still 150 gold bounty for first turret. There's the charge in, and the champion's still waiting around. This is certainly going to be the turret falling. Extra gold to the 2 big mages on the squad. Not kind of nuclear, but that's still money in the pockets of DAMWON.
And a key factor of that last fight is how ulti-reliant TL is. And whenever you play a Galio comp, you have to be very aware of the fact he has a longer ultimate. You notice right now that CoreJJ's ult isn't up. This would have been a beautiful scenario to have that available. And DAMWON love these skirmish-heavy comps that are not so ult-reliant, or they have shorter cooldowns.
Yeah, certainly the case, and they executed this very well. Xmithie not having the flag up there to actually exit, so it does do get knocked down. But really, the kind of big victory here for DAMWON was on the later end of that fight. Taking the mid lane turret is going to take away a lot of the safety here from TL and give them access to some deeper vision into the Team Liquid jungle.
Especially at this stage of the game, because you can just park Nuclear mid lane, and it is going to be so hard to push into the Veigar. This opens up the 1-3-1. Watch where their vision goes, because they are very good at attacking a deep portion of the map. We've seen it be the top side the entirety of this game. And wherever Canyon and BeryL float towards is the area I expect to try and shove TL away from these turrets.
And also now that Nuclear actually has his first completed item here, he has that Super Soaker. The slow on this with Glacial Augment is so big that it does allow you to set up your own cage very, very easily. And when you have someone like Canyon coming in as well, that can force flashes out, that can force cooldowns out of Team Liquid to try to escape those setups.
Definitely going to be a player we watch for here. DAMWON certainly not gun-shy about engaging and taking fights. 4-4 in kills, and the gold lead about 1,000 in their favor. That, of course, answered by Team Liquid's double Infernal Drake, fighting that back quite a lot. Nuguri a bit low, though. Chained up, has the big heal available. Uses that through the Ignite, but this could still be a TL dive. Now, the Sanguine Pool is available as he charges up. Doesn't find anyone to fight just yet. That's just health missing now, and that's going to be the chain. That's going to be damage. Wait, there's the kill finally coming through. Jensen grabs that one. Easy enough dive, 4v0 essentially.
And it's not every day after mid lane turret goes down that you're able to gain push over that area and stay for a wave and a half to just wait and dive out Nuguri. Sure, they are trading objectives on the other side of the map, but you can see Impact did the right thing. He floats into mid lane. He collects the additional wave. So this is TL coming out with an extra kill, but also extra CS advantage.
Yeah, exactly. It is that turret trade. They go positive 1 kill. They slow down the Vladimir here a little bit, so certainly a nice play for Team Liquid. And it is now the completed Rage Blade here for Doublelift. So 2 critical items done for that Kai'Sa. He has had an incredibly strong point. The question is not can he put out the damage, it is going to be can he survive and avoid the engage here, because that is going to be the critical step for him. In Team Liquid's team fights, it's going to be more about kind of absorbing the initial punch and avoiding these Yasuo combo and then fighting back and finishing them off.
And a big portion of that is the fact that Nuguri is going to be very slow to get into these fights. And I mean in the most literal sense. He still doesn't have boots 2 on his Vladimir build. That is normally a rush item.
Yeah, well, this time around,
the TP flank, though.
Back to AP. The TP flank comes in. Doublelift sees it. They're going to fight Nuguri here. He's going to take a lot of damage, though. Knows he still has a Sanguine Pool. Now it's time for the second smite fight here in this Mountain Drake as the engage almost comes in. There's the dunk on top, and it's 3 flashes forced out. This time for it doesn't matter, though. Into the back line. Nuguri finds a bit of damage with the Hemo Plague. Won't quite kill Doublelift, but it's still the Drake coming through. The re-flash in for the top laner, but it's still kills coming through for the LCK side. The stun is there, and they're shutting down Team Liquid. Still Impact tries, but CoreJJ is incredibly low. The Vlad cannot die. What a team fight coming through for DAMWON Gaming. This is Nuclear to grab the kill, and Nuguri no problem at all. Only a single man survives the team fight. Going to DAMWON.
Yeah, Team Liquid completely mismanaging that. They knew Nuguri was behind them. They know he has the ultimate in the cooldowns. They decide to try to engage forward anyway, but that means that the backline of TL is just going to get absolutely eviscerated. You know, Doublelift started this off very well. I think you just have to try to keep better eyes on Nuguri here, because as they go for the engage, look at all the damage he's able to get on. His Q is already empowered off of the Gromp. The flash in, Doublelift is now out of the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the value of Veigar at the end of this as well. Cage about to go down, and Doublelift just flies into the edge of it. That's just game over as far as this team fight is concerned. They have to be much more aware of where Nuclear is going to be with the utility, and Nuguri's damage is going to be the highlight.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that cage will interrupt you mid-ultimate. That will stop you in your track. So Doublelift has to be, pretty damn careful about that.
Every single player on Team Liquid has a spell that is interrupted by the Veigar cage. Event Horizon works against all 5 of those characters. It's been very powerful so far. Good damage output, second only to the farming Vladimir, and the CC super in there as well. So 2,500 gold is the DAMWON Gaming lead. Still, that's answered by the Drakes that TL have, but it still feels like it's going the way of the Koreans.
And now this is the stage of the game you need to be able to weather the storm. This is going to be Void Staff completed. 2 items for the Gragas. You can see the stopwatch, Zonya's there for Nuclear as well. This is the area that DAMWON will start to really exert great pressure on the map. And I feel like TL are at least an item away before they want to be able to contest that again with their traditional marksman.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I actually think, even though Nuclear's build here is pretty atypical, you'll almost always see the double slow items coming out immediately. He doesn't have those spooky ghosts coming out. I think you don't need the additional damage. When you have, pure AP, Gragas, you have these monstrous soul laners who already are so strong, why not just keep that Zonias to make sure that if it is J4 Galio engaging on your head, it's an easy Zonias to negate that completely.
Because League of Legends really does feel a lot more utility and carry focused at the moment, as opposed to traditional marksman comps. And I do feel like that bottom lane just holds all the utility necessary for this team comp to be successful. It stops all the dashes, as you mentioned, and also can just hard reset a team fight if you put it around that Galio and Jarvan. And is that going to be a Wit's End picked up for Doublelift? It's not
It's
an
a
item I
possibility.
see very often.
And it can still be Hurricane, of course,
Yeah.
which is a very likely pickup as well. I wouldn't mind either option. I can see it going both ways, but still do want to see him able to survive the mages, and just the Null Magic Mantle isn't really enough to survive Vladimir.
I think he's just going to sit on the casual null and actually probably go Hurricane or something along those lines, and then go back into a Hex Drinker is what I'm expecting. Certainly would be possible, but I think the magic damage shield is going to be more useful against this much upfront burst.
Yeah, and I always get interested by the Kai'Sa build path. Hold the thought.
Yeah, plenty of damage here, but he's still going to be able to get the heal coming through. Now the fight continues, though, and this could be enough for impact, but the rest of the squad's coming around, though. He's got to back right out. 500 health from the Vladimir, though. Forward motion for the squad, looking to kill off Vlad, but he can't die. Finally, impact gets one, and they get a second as well. The solo kill for the top laner, and BeryL's certainly going to get dropped down as well.
This could be Baron! They're going to go for it. They're going to run straight to Baron. Impact with a solo kill here on Nuguri. Completely flips this game around.
But keep in mind, Canyon has taken every contested neutral objective this game so far. Better smite on Drake, better smite on Rift Herald. Team Liquid had better zone him out of this pit.
Yeah, CoreJJ already behind the pit. They know that is a possibility, but it is not even going to be contested. Team Liquid going to get a 23-minute Baron off of a massive play from Impact.
Yeah, Impact, you monster. He just keeps Nuguri out of that fight completely. He's on 10% health before it even begins. And this is the top laner of TL that all eyes were on going into MSI. He silenced the doubters, but for some reason, they've flown back out of the woodwork in his first game of Worlds. He looks disgusting on this Aatrox.
I mean, he's playing great. Nuguri just wasn't able to get the healing due to that Executioners. And then on the other side, they know there's no flash on the Vladimir. He used it in the last team fight, so Team Liquid can engage with Reckless Abandon, knowing there's no possibility of the Vladimir flanking.
And the decisiveness of this comp, the little window of opportunity to be able to create a fight in the middle of the forest where there are great areas to be able to cut off choke points with your Jarvan and to be able to take that opportunity straight away.
Adam's coming through. Phantom Dancer comes through for Doublelift. It's going to be the shield option here, not the Hurricane. Not either of the things we predicted, but it is going to make it more durable.
That makes a lot of sense, because if he keeps flying into that Veigar ultimate, he really needs a QSS. He's going to be able to cleanse that one off eventually, so I do like the itemization.
This time around, though, really big damage, and Nuguri couldn't get away from the back half of the chain, so the pull comes through as Impact is going to have to back off of this one, but you can see this Aatrox doing well on the trades.
Yeah, no one is answering Jensen right now, and he does have those Baron minions, so TL is pushing on two sides. You can see he's just shoving this down. No one even close to actually answering Jensen, so TL is going to push up mid lane, pressure this bot lane turret, and use their mid lane squad to now rotate over to this dragon from mid and just be able to grab that, no problem.
And I feel like this is now the stage of the game that it becomes very difficult to navigate, because we've already seen DAMWON want to come from multiple areas of the fight, but because the map has been pushed up for so long, it's going to limit the amount of teleport flanks that you're able to generate. TL need to do a very good job of staying diligent on vision, but if they do, I feel like in a 5v5 front-to-back composition, Kai'Sa is going to be queen at this stage of the game.
As long as she's not caught. Everyone has some pretty heavy crowd control, a pretty heavy burst. If Doublelift stays alive, yes, it's going to be million damage, but DAMWON's comp is just very volatile.
It certainly is, and one of the kind of tough things here for TL is when you are trying to check every box, make sure you have vision from every angle, the Baron buff is ticking, right? There's, about a little bit over a minute left on this Baron buff, and while it certainly was nice and it's a good injection of gold, they are nowhere even close to dealing game-ending damage. They do have 5 men mid, though, and let's see if they want to try to go for this dive. Nuclear is low.
Another nice juke. Ignite's almost going to kill him. Is there a tick left? No. He's going to walk away with about 100 HP, but this is still now a 5v4 on the map. At any point, Xmithie could say, all right, EQR, join me, CoreJJ.
Yeah, Jensen is pretty much out of mana, though, so I don't think TL can actually look to force here. They are just going to try to zone and extend the gold lead.
Yeah, and I like that call, because you don't want to pay back all the hard work that you've just picked up. You won one team fight, you've now got the lead back in your favor, and there is another Infernal Dragon spawning. Keep them on map, keep the map static for now, get your recall in and set up well around that objective. That's going to set up a very powerful Elder Dragon and give this lineup multiple win conditions to play towards.
Exactly. If TL has to play neutral objectives, this Drake could not be better timed. Hold the throne, almost the knock about a Doublelift. Not sure if they would have followed that one, but it's going to spawn just after 30 minutes, meaning Elder spawns just about 35. It'll be pretty perfect timing there. So if TL needs to play a safe neutral game, that's in the cards for him.
And it is going to be the QSS buy here for Doublelift. You can see pretty significant gold advantage, for him there over Nuclear. And Team Liquid's certainly looking good thus far, but DAMWON very far from out of this game. They always have the potential, with a comp like this to absolutely erase one of the carries at the start of the fight, and then the gold lead means nothing, the Infernals mean nothing. And Team Liquid is going to have to do such a good job, not only at having their own vision down, but actually sweeping out flank wards, sweeping out TP wards, like we saw destroy them at that previous Dragon fight.
Yeah, and I think that they would have loved their recall to be slightly later, because 2.5 minutes to hold complete control of the map is a very difficult task. So you can see instead they're trying to pinch the side lane, they're trying to control the forest and maybe prevent that easy access into this part of the map. This is the exact area we saw TL win the last team fight. See if they can force another one here.
Looking to move forward, looking to take over this jungle yet again. They've got the gold lead and the Drake lead, 2,500 in Team Liquid's favor. A little bit of poke towards BeryL, doesn't quite find him yet, but they're trying to get rid of some wards.
Yeah, again, buying some time for that bottom lane wave. It is Jensen kind of just being sent off. They're keeping the rest of the 4-man squad together, and they're trying to force someone to answer this wave before TL look to do anything aggressive elsewhere. And with Nuguri showing up, TL may try to posture a little bit more.
And this is where discipline comes into League of Legends. The willingness to just sit and deny resources. This is a quarter of the jungle that Canyon no longer has access to. This is golden resources being starved out, and Vision is the primary game that is being denied right now. When you're sitting underneath your turrets, all of the keys to being able to prepare that successful fight are being denied. And this is what a veteran lineup will do on the world stage against a young lineup. They'll frustrate you. They'll make you play impatient. They want DAMWON to just run at them right now because they know that that is a winning team fight for Liquid.
And in about 45 seconds, run at them is probably going to happen here. The Baron spawns well before the Drake does, so if they play it quickly, there's no trade in the cards. Almost a knock up on a Canyon. Xmithie looked for the play. They didn't find it quite yet. No collapse, but it's still pressure.
And once again, trigger discipline. You know what objective you're fighting over. Don't run in. Don't fight over nothing right now. You have the key to be able to pull them out of this base.
And these guys know how close this group is, how competitive this group is. Every win really can be the difference between going home at group stages or making it out. So getting every single one of these, making sure with your setups, making sure that you have the perfect execution and you're not making those errors is so important. And Jensen getting a big pick like that would be huge for their Baron chances. For now, he's going to push Canyon back, and he is having the Baron spawn, so we'll see if TL want to try to make any risky moves and start something up.
They nearly chunked him to half. They don't know if he's recalling.
They're going in.
Instead going for the fight. A nice pulverize, though. Pulls off the aftershock. He's going to stay healthy, and Xmithie going to be forced out, but still, Jensen wants some poke, finds it. They see Canyon still around, still at half HP.
Yeah, this is just a beautiful setup, right? It's actually better to have a 4v4 if you are TL. If Impact and Nuguri stay out of the fight, TL should not lose this fight. Jensen can look to poke, can look to try to push them down and create opportunities where TL can actually start up the Baron and TPing over to it.
Scimitar done for Doublelift. He recalled to finish the item, then TP'd right back in. They're trying to make the big play.
And you can see that Doublelift is faking hitting the Baron. Now we'll just start it up. No, he won't again. That's another fake. They suckered him in.
They go for the knockup. They get a lot of damage. Xmithie almost dead. He's going to be found by the Yasuo as well. Finally gets the dunk down. Doesn't quite die. Gets another knockup. Finally one kill picked up. TB's now coming in as well. Barely alive and walking away is BeryL. The jump in. Can't find it.
He goes Doublelift.
There's one kill. There's two. Look at the team fight victory. Team Liquid immediately grab 4.
They're going to look to end the game perhaps here. They have a mini wave. They want to finish him.
I've seen Doublelift fight mages in mid before. This time he pulls it off with the quadra kill, and down mid lane they will go.
I think they've done it. Look at the respawn timers, 30 seconds. TL have the minions, and they may just claim game number 1.
You have to believe they've done it. North America has never topped a group at Worlds, and Team Liquid just maybe are the first squad to do this here with 5 more to play. They're doing well against one of Korea's best. They'll knock down the turrets. They will knock down the Nexus, and Team Liquid will grab the first win for North America at Worlds.
The #1 seed out of North America are able to put on a commanding performance. I feel like the game played out perfectly to script for TL. One hiccup, but apart from that, just complete control over the pace this game was played.
And this is a style that DAMWON is very comfortable in. They were playing in DAMWON's wheelhouse. We saw Nuguri hit all the items he needed, ShowMaker have everything he needed. Team Liquid, it was the vision play around Baron that really set them up for success here. And who else but Doublelift flying in that final fight, going aggressive, diving past the Veigar box to get a quadra kill and secure the first victory here for Team Liquid.
But I feel like every member of TL had a moment this game.
Yeah.
That E-Flash combo there from Xmithie, how well Jensen lane, and then Impact for me, the monster in the top lane, going against Nuguri, maybe the best top laner in the world, and in back-to-back international performances, you know, through the Shy, this time through Nuguri. That's very impressive.
I mean, honestly, that solo kill that he got on Nuguri really did kind of, I think, create the first meaningful advantage for Team Liquid in this game. It helped to secure, you know, additional gold leads. It helped to secure the eventual Baron. You know, and they really were set up very well by Impact, even though he was playing weak side of the map for most of the early game.
Yeah, didn't get any help at all from what I can remember. But to your point, that solo kill was part of the team fight 3-for-0 that turned into the Baron, that turned into a 3,500 gold Baron power play, which TL said, okay, with this lead, we simply play for Baron number 2. And that play absolutely won the game. So that little piece of it just snowballed into everything.
And I've had so many conversations with Jat this Worlds about how it's not how quickly you close out a game, but with the control you do. That was a very controlled finish from TL. They looked great.
Absolutely great. Team Liquid winning in their style. And now for a breakdown of that win, we're going to send it down to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Freak. That was an absolutely beautiful victory from Team Liquid over DAMWON Gaming. And besides that, just a super interesting game to watch from the sidelines with so many little things that could go either way in every single one of those team fights. And Verius, you wanted to take a look at the draft again because it was a very interesting one, especially coming into that mid game.
I mean, for sure, but I also wanted to start off by saying the thing about Team Liquid is we talked about how consistency is the name of the game for them. And if you slip up, they will catch it. And we saw it from them today. And their consistency proved to be the biggest thing that allowed them to come up over DAMWON Gaming today. Now, diving into the draft, we saw a lot of comfort coming out from the side of DAMWON. And all of us were like, this is looking a little scary for Team Liquid.
Absolutely, because I think Team Liquid's draft is the one that a lot of people, I looked around social media and stuff, were like, okay, these are a lot of old picks. Aatrox is back, Galio support is back, what's going on there? I think the concept of this draft versus DAMWON's normal range, which is these side lane carries that don't necessarily bring initiation and try to just play for side lane, that normal read, I think they just tried to enact with a comp that's super punished. It's a super hard engage comp. Jarvan, Galio through every meta. But this particular DAMWON comp did have engage, could punish, felt like that at some point the team fights would just be free because you're diving into a Vladimir with lots of items. So it was a much more on the execution that I think Team Liquid had in spades.
I feel like that, as you rightly said, both comps kind of looking to fight. And when you look at Team Liquid, their style is very much set up for objectives, force fights around those objectives. And we will go into that more as we go through the replays. But what we saw there, I think, is that TL had a strong mid-game comp, whereas DAMWON had a much better scaling avenue with the Vladimir likely going to outscale towards the later game. But it did feel like that in a lot of the early fights, DAMWON were actually coming out on top.
Yeah, because for me, I know you talked about consistency, but I saw a lot of playmaking from Jensen in particular because they were playing through mid, being able to get ShowMaker behind. And a lot of those fights that we will be talking about, Jensen came up clutch in a lot of those engages.
Well, I think in general, when you look at it, Team Liquid was always first on the play when it comes to a lot of these objectives, but it's like they didn't figure out the exact beats of some of the team fights until later in the game. And that is why I think, Papa Xmithie, you say, well, it didn't look to all be going in TL's way for that mid game. And that's what we're going to look at a couple of replays, starting with the Rift Herald fight, because that was one where Team Liquid was first on the play, but then they get bullied out by DAMWON.
You start to look at some of these fights and they seem like they're going to herald negative things in the future because you have to dive in. This is a really big misexecution by Impact, diving face first and face planting into a stun. And when these two plays went away, I think everyone was kind of throwing down their pens and say, okay, guess this one's done.
And I feel that what we saw here is that while TL's comp should actually have an advantage in these situations, we did see some execution differences. And we did see a lot of the talent, like Nuguri coming up clutch with the flank. ShowMaker ends this team fight playing beautifully on the Yasuo. And it just felt like that DAMWON were multiple times out executing Team Liquid in what were very close fights.
Because in this fight, remember, the control ward making it so they just thought that Vladimir was a non-factor, chunking him to about 30% of his HP. Didn't realize that he used Crimson Rush to be able to heal his health right back and come into the team fight. So that was a point where I said, well, they can just collapse on the Vladimir. They just thought that he wasn't even in the play anymore.
And I think when you're watching and, you know, you've had the narrative of ShowMaker, Nuguri for so long, everyone kind of is like, okay, what now for Team Liquid? And that is why, for me, it is even more impressive how Team Liquid was able to put this back in their favor, namely in the fight and the pickoff that gets them the Baron.
Nuguri giveth, Nuguri taketh. Papa Xmithie called it. He said at the beginning, no gold lead is big enough for DAMWON Gaming because it only takes one mistake. And we said as well that if you make this mistake against Team Liquid, they will punish you for it. And it comes off the back of Impact. The man that we were like, why are you picking Aatrox? What are you doing in this situation? He finds this pick, which starts off the fight for Team
And I love that you identify that because the game doesn't go the way it did without this play, because suddenly Nuguri's like, wait, I can't just be a 1-3-1 winning lane against Aatrox. I'm losing those trades. And as the game went on, they never actually were able to step up to throw a Gragas ultimate. They were always in vision, hanging around the mid lane. The Nayram happened, but it was a Nayram that North America was winning. And because of that, they couldn't force anything. They couldn't play 3 lanes. And it actually fell back to what I was alluding to. If you got the easy to execute AD carry who has a lot of farm, suddenly DAMWON were like, wait, if we make any mistakes, we could lose in the next play.
And they were just incredibly calm after that Baron pickup, what I saw from Team Liquid. Because even just getting to see, you know, Xmithie and Jensen being on the right side of the map when they were playing through mid, just basically playing through the fact that Jensen has a huge amount of popping power. In fact, almost getting the kill onto Veigar on mid lane, just missing out in the chain on that one. They were incredibly strong at being able to solidify the win once they had that advantage.
They played, it seems, so energetic and so invigorated from the side of Team Liquid. And someone we have to call out is our Oppo player of the game, Impact. Papa Xmithie, I'm going to go over to you. What a performance.
Exactly, because the Aatrox has kind of been a whipping boy for a long time, got a kind of micro buff on this patch, but we assumed it was out. And it was a matchup into Vlad that never guaranteed you priorities. So he actually had to be the pressure valve. And again, that kill that we caught in the second replay is what got them so much. And then they closed out very solidly.
Yeah, even just the smaller points too during laning phase, forcing the flash off of the Vladimir early on. He was laning well, trading well into the matchup.
Yeah, fantastic. I do want to close this chapter before we go to the interview, as it is a wonderful win by Team Liquid. But you know, we had some question marks about DAMWON and what they could do, and the fact that Nuguri and ShowMaker can be over-aggressive. How much do we take away from this DAMWON loss?
Here's what I'll say. It should not be surprising that this Challenger 2 Worlds run is going to have some speed bumps. And that's what this represents. TL does TL things. DAMWON try things. They give you chances. They gave too many here. And that's why TL were able to close. So I think it's all in the calculations, but DAMWON can certainly pick up from here.
But I think it also showcases what this Team Liquid squad is capable of. Yes, there were a couple things that you could point at as mistakes or weaknesses from Team Liquid. And while they may not be the perfect team, they're showcasing that they are a contender to make it out of this group. And North America is looking to make a run at this World.
Great start for the LCS. For more on that victory, Laura is standing by with the Team Liquid support.
American Pie.
Thank you very much, guys. Laure here, and joining me right now is CoreJJ after the first victory from Team Liquid. Congratulations and thank you for joining me. What do you think about your first steps on the world stage?
I definitely kind of worried because I thought DAMWON is, definitely really strong team, and then very talented team. Fortunately, we have more experience in stage, so we got this game.
Can you explain something to me? In the batting phase, the Heimer ban. I know DAMWON doesn't play this pick, and I know this is one of the picks to watch. So can you explain maybe why did you ban Heimerdinger and not maybe Vladimir?
Because we have like Impact as confidence playing against Vladimir at first, and then that is more important. And then, we just don't wanna give them Heimerdinger and then half. We're gonna just farming even farming, and then we just don't wanna see.
That was a smart choice in the end. Now, about you. I don't know if you noticed, as a world champion and an iconic LCK player, none of the players who were representing LCK last year came back, except you. What is your take on that?
Actually, I think there's a Mara.
I should know that.
But I'm really proud of me, and then I'm really proud of like my team Liquid. I think we are doing really well. I think even though we are struggling during the preparing, but I think so far having really fun, having I'm learning really fun way. So
Are you confident for the rest of the groups?
oh, we just win against DAMWON, so we must have confidence. So yeah, we have confidence.
Well, thank you very much, CoreJJ. Congrats once again for the first victory. We're going to take a short break now.
Nice one, Sean.
Gonna try for it, but a really nicely placed cage buys his face. There's the knockup, a lot of damage coming across. First blood gonna come through. A single knockup. Here's the pull right back in. The BeryL's tanky. The re-engage explosive cast buys some time, but Doublelift finds that first kill. BeryL still low. The flash knockup impact into the backline. Nuguri finds a bit of damage with the Hemo Plague. Won't quite kill Doublelift, but it's still a train coming through. The re-flash in for the top laner, but it's still kills coming through for the LCK side. The stun is there. Forward motion for the squad. Looking to kill off Vlad, but he can't die. Finally, Impact gets one, and they get a second as well. The Silica for the top laner, and BeryL's certainly going to get dropped down as well.
This could be Baron.
TV's now coming in as well, barely alive and walking away as BeryL. The jump in, can't find it.
He goes Doublelift.
There's one kill, there's two. Look at the team fight victory. They will knock down the Nexus, and Team Liquid will grab the first win for North America at Worlds.
So Josh, you going for our Drive Safe and Save discount?
Yep, using the app, driving safe.
You wanna go? You wanna go, bro?
Hey, do not mess with my discount.
Woo!
You can save up to 30%.
Let's go!
Nice to meet you. Go get him, Tiger.
Sounds like you've got this.
Yeah, definitely.
Get a discount up to 30% with Drive Safe and Save from State Farm.